Jai Guruji, today is day 12 of our interaction, and we will talk about some of the most elementary, the most basic, but at the same time, the most important aspects of our interaction about Guruji and all that we know, we need to know, or we don't need to know. We all have heard about this that when you come to Guruji, he takes care of 90% of your karma and also helps you manage the remaining 10% because even that load of karma is not easy for you to manage entirely on your own. But the question you ask, if we are all puppets in the hand of divine and we only do this all because somebody up there controls us, we don't have anything in our control, then how on earth do we end up accumulating this karma in the first place? And we're going to talk about it, and then we are going to talk about how Maharaj handles this whole thing. And this is purely my understanding, and I don't claim any copyright on this in whatever possible way. But I fall back on the single most important book that I have read again and again and again, and that is Gita. Because there is no better discourse on karma than Gita. And what is Gita? The two brothers, Yudhishthir and Duryodhan, align against each other to fight for the kingdom. And it is termed as the battle between the good and the evil. Lord Krishna on the side of good, and everybody else aligned on the side of bad and evil. But Arjun refuses to fight on the premises that everybody aligned against him is essentially his family. And he turns around and say, you don't want me to kill my relatives, my brothers, my uncles, my father, grandfather, you name it. How on earth do I win this war by killing everybody who means so much to me? And this dialogue between Krishna and Arjun is essentially telling him why it is important for him to do what Lord Krishna is asking him to do, and that is to fight. So this entire discourse is preparing a reluctant Arjun to fight war. What Krishna tells him, he starts by telling him that this is your fight because this is your duty. You are a king, you are a Kshatriya, you are a warrior, and this is your duty to fight for a just cause. Because if you won, then you get the kingdom. If you lose and you die, then you go to heaven as a just reward for a job well done. And he says, I don't want heaven, neither do I want this kingdom, because anything that I get by killing my relatives, not good enough for me. This is no justification. And then Krishna said, boss, you fight because I'm telling you to fight. And he turned around, why would you ask me to do something which I don't want to do? I just cannot see any merit of a fight like this. And then Krishna explained to him that this is not your choice. By the way, I have already decided that you will fight. So you are going to fight. So all that remains for you to choose is the reason why you want to fight and the state of mind that you have. If you think you are fighting your relatives and you're going to kill them and you will incur sin and bad karma, then my dear, you are killing your relatives and you will accumulate bad karma. You will pay for it. But if you think you're doing your duty, the duty of a Kshatriya, the duty of a king to protect his people and his kingdom from evil attack, incursion, then you are doing your duty and then you will get good karma as a result and everything that comes along with it. But you have another choice. You have a choice to believe that I'm asking you to fight. So all you're doing is obeying the orders of the divine. And if you are neither fighting for good nor you're fighting for bad, but all you're doing is fighting because the divine wants you to fight. So you are neither here nor there. You're just fighting. And you're not fighting for any reward. You're fighting because in that case, you have nothing to do with reward. All you're doing is doing what you're being asked to do. And then he showed him that the war that he's asking him to fight has already happened. So not only Arjuna had no choice, but Arjun had already fought this war. So with that, he came to terms with the peace that what I'm doing has essentially already happened as far as the divine is concerned. And that everybody, whether on Arjuna's side or on the side of Duryodhan, everybody is Krishna himself. There is nobody else. So it turns out to him that Krishna is fighting, he is killing, he is getting killed, he is losing, he is winning, and it is only him. So then Arjun realizes that I'm not doing it. It is the divine in me because everyone is divine, irrespective of which side they are. And so if you are fighting because it is the divine in you that is fighting, it's Krishna all the way, and you have nothing to do with it. Then, my son, you have nothing to do with it, and you accumulate neither good karma nor bad karma. You just collect nothing. So it's a huge discourse compressed in these few lines, and essentially you accumulate karma, good or bad, not because what you do, but because what you think while you do. And an apparently very good cause done with a very evil aim and thought process cannot be something that will accumulate good karma. I just give you one example. Here is a saint who is sitting in a forest, and a cow, or an innocent animal for that matter, walks past and goes somewhere. A few minutes later, you have a, a man with a long knife or a sword coming and asking him, "Hey, saint, did a cow go past you? And if yes, which way it is? So show me the direction." Now, the saint doesn't tell lies, he always speaks the truth. So, he has a choice to speak the truth and be held responsible for the killing of that innocent element, or tell a lie, save the life of the animal, misdirect this man, but accumulate bad karma for telling a lie. What do you think will happen? For me, it is very clear. The intention is most important. You want to save life, then telling a lie will not matter. And if you are responsible for killing, then your truth adds to zero. It means nothing. This a truth which takes somebody's life is not good enough. Let me come back to what Guruji said about it before I proceed further. In a very casual late night chat with General Kapoor uncle, Guruji asked him about various religions, to which General uncle replied that he has been in the military, so knows very little about all this. And Guruji said, doesn't matter if you know nothing. All that you need to do is this. If you can do good for someone, go ahead and do it. But if you cannot, then don't feel bad about it, because everybody is not destined to receive goodness through you. And you may not be able to do it, not because you don't want to do it, because he may not deserve it. But make sure that you do not harm anyone. You are not the reason for somebody's sorrow. Don't be held responsible for somebody's tears, somebody's pain, somebody's suffering. And as long as you do that, that's all you need to know about religion, about karma, about good living. And once he said, "Is that understood?" And he said, "Yes, sir. Ji Guruji," and say, "In that case, go home." A very short and sweet conversation explaining everything. So, what is more important is your intention, whether they are to harm somebody or they are to not harm somebody and save someone. So, let me just recap what we said. What happens in your life is controlled by the Supreme. The divine in you does what he does. If you think you are doing it, then you are doing it and you will pay for it. If you think it is your duty, then it is your duty and you will be rewarded for doing your duty. If you think you are killing your relatives, Arjun, then you are killing your relatives, buddy, and you will pay for it. If you think you're obeying divine order, then you're obeying divine orders and you will have nothing to do with it. And that is as simple as that. So, no matter what you do, no matter what you do, Just do it with a clean heart. Don't associate yourself with what you do. Just step back and do it and offer it to Lord every time, saying, it is your wish. Like we casually talk about it and we say, why you did this? And all we raise our hands toward the sky and say, Guruji's wish. And if it is that thought, then you have nothing to do with it and you accumulate no karma. But this is something we do today. But what about what we have already accumulated? And here is my understanding. You know, these desires and the karma, good or bad, doesn't matter, always stays with you both in this physical world and in this spiritual world. These two things will never leave you. And karma must be settled before you can move on. The desire is important because the desire wants you to move from darker side to the brighter side, from heavier side to the lighter side, from weaker side to the stronger side, from unhappy side to happiness, and from away from Guru to close to Guru. That's what we are doing now. We just want to get close to Guru, our Maharaj, our divine, our Lord, in everything that possibly He could be. He is to us. Now, this debt of karma, and this, before I move on, I am reminded of a small couplet from Ramcharitmanas. It is a book about the life and story of Lord Ram, as written by a saint called Tulsidas. And there is a couplet. Let me recite it as it is, and then I will explain the meaning in English. कर्म प्रधान विश्व रचि राखा जो जेहि करे ही सो तेहि फल चाखा. It's a very elementary thing, and it says this world where we live in has been created essentially based on the laws of karma. As you sow, so shall you reap. Whatever the seeds you put in the land, you're going to get the fruits of that seed. You cannot plant cactus and expect mangoes, and it's okay. But that is the rule of the karma of this world. And I said this because essentially, if you must settle your karma, then you must come here. Karmas don't get settled in this spiritual world. They get settled in the physical world because only in physical world action takes place. There is no action in this spiritual world. There things are as they are. And if you have the desire to move from evil side to the good side and to the Guru side, then you must come here. And what must happen is only a question of visualization. And then you go back to Guru, who is of course there, and say, Guru, I need a promotion. I'm not very happy with what it is. So he says, all right, son, then you go back. here are the things that you haven't done. It is like in the military, when you have to be promoted, you cannot be in a peace posting to receive a promotion. You must do what we call a criteria appointment. That is in the field, on the forward area, facing the bullets, facing the enemy, fighting and risking your life. And if you do well there, then you come back and they say, okay, you're a good military man, you deserve to be promoted. So you then are asked to do a field posting. And this is where we are. And for all of us and all of you and me and everybody else, we are here doing a criteria appointment to settle the accounts of our karma. But you come here only because you have a desire to do better, to grow, to get closer to your Guru, the divine, and essentially become the divine yourself. So you volunteer and then you say, Guruji, send me there. I'm going to set everything right. I will make no mistakes and there'll be nothing wrong. I'll go, settle it, and come back. And then I will report back to you. All right. But if you have your Guru, because you may not have one, or you have somebody who will put you further in the quicksand of karma mess. So, assuming you have your Guru who is capable of doing this for you, then you tell him, Guruji, on my own, I will not be able to do this. And then Guru says, don't worry. You go there, I will take care. And then you come here and then you find him, then you get connected, and then he is helping you take care of your karma. He is making you blessings ready. Remember this when I told you? He is making you blessings ready by settling this account, which will include a whole lot of blessing, a little bit of suffering, and pain and agony, because settlement of karma is bit of a mixed bag. But once here, you can forget all that. There is a Shabad that we used to hear occasionally in Empire State Mandir. It was sung by Bhai Harbans Singh, and whereas I cannot tell you the exact lines, the essential meaning of it was that look at you. You promised so much before you came here that Guruji, I'm going to get up in the morning. I will remember you. I will sing praise of your name. I will purify myself. I will do all the good things. And look at yourself now. What a mess. You forgot all that. And that Shabad is exactly what it is. And I trust every line of it because Guruji chose it and he played it for us to let us know the purpose of why we are here. There's only one purpose. Settle your karma, go back and report to Maharaj with a clean slate. And that purpose gets served by not messing up further. It is like a person comes out of jail on parole because of his good conduct and they say, please release me, I'm going to be a good person. And he comes out and kills another person and goes back to jail again. Now, then it was much better if he was staying in the jail because he will not add this another death to his or murder to his karma account. So, if that's the case, and that happens when you don't have a guide, when you don't have a guru, but you have a guru. And guru who is just not a guru, he is the ultimate divine light himself. And so what he does when he says, okay, I'll be with you, it means you have a guru, and a guru, this guru will not let you make a mistake. If he sends you out on parole, he will make sure they don't do any silly thing. This is exactly what Krishna told Arjun. When Arjun asked him, Lord, what happens to your disciples, your devotees, when they make mistakes? Do they fall out from you? Do you, what do you do? And Arjun is told by Lord Krishna saying, if they are my devotee, I do not let them fall from grace. And what Guruji made us listen to the Shabad is this, that a true Guru will be ready to pay back for the karma of disciple himself, but will not let him fall from grace. And this is why our Guruji took so much on himself, because he will not let you fall from grace. He will not let you make mistake, because he's taken in his fold, and that promise that he will hold your hand. That is why a true Guru, the kind our Guruji is, the Supreme Lord, the Divine Light, and if He is your Guru, then He does not let you fall from grace, does not let you make mistake, and will make sure that you account for your karma as per His plan, not as per your plan. How do you settle karma? I want to draw an analogy of your bank account. And good karma is like a money deposited there, and a bad karma is like a debt that you carry. And there are many reasons why you carry debt. But just imagine every time you do something good and nice, your deposit goes up. And every time you do some mistake, that you spend money. And there may be a time when actually you spend so much money that not only you do have zero balance in the account, you actually owe to the bank. And that is where the problem is. Zero account is fine. Positive account is terrific. But what if you owe money to people and you must pay it back? And so you come here to settle that account. I owe so much to so much, and so much to so and so. And then these people also come in your life to receive that money of karma. It's like you slap somebody twice, then you come here to offer your face and say, please go ahead, slap me twice, and that settles the karma. I did it to you, you have done it to me, and we can move on, so to say. But sometimes, if you're on your own, you may forget. And then you go back, and instead of so much negativity and bad karma, you end up with so much bad karma because you forgot. But our Guru will not let us forget. So when Guru says, I'm going to account for 90% myself, and it'll help you account for the remaining 10%, and that also in a way that you won't notice. And I can only give you an example. This is the way I understand. If, say for example, if you are given a punishment that you will have 1 kg of chili, red chili, the spiciest of the lot, to be eaten as a punishment, which will be quite a nasty thing to do. But if your guru is with you, then he will add 1 spoon of chili in chili paneer every day, and you can eat it with naan. So you not only account for your karma, you actually having a good food on a daily basis. So if you understand it like that, then you're eating chili. Of course you are eating. It's a punishment. But actually you end up eating chili paneer with naan because Guru is with you. And that is how that 10% gets accounted for. So be with Guru. In fact, Guru will be with us. There is another way of accounting for karma. That is by suffering. You can volunteer to suffer and add and pay for it. And that is why, you know, you must have heard it so many times that don't hurt a poor, don't hurt who is suffering in life, because if he said something to you, you will not be able to come out of it. But you never ever heard saying that don't hurt this rich man because he will be able to curse you. No, he can't. A person enjoying life doesn't have it in his bank account to do anything for you or negative for you, a positive, negative. So you seek blessings. The reason you seek blessings from your elderlies is because they have suffered by virtue of being here for that long. And that suffering has given them the necessary level of, uh, so to say, capability to bless you. So a beggar can bless you, a weaker can bless you, a stronger cannot bless you. So the blessing resides with those who suffer. You know, compared between parents and father and mother, a mother's blessing is given so much more importance because her suffering is phenomenally more than your father's suffering. And this is why our mothers hold a great place of reverence in our lives. This is why our scripture said that women must be loved, they must be honored, they must be respected, and they must be treated like divine. Means they must be worshipped. Any place where women are not worshipped, gods don't reside, they don't even come there. It's not worth their presence in that place. So start from there, accumulate and pay for and accumulate good karma and pay off your bad karma by respecting, loving, and taking care of the women in your life, be it your mother, your wife, your sisters, your daughters, your neighbors, your sangat. And that is why Guruji used to say, I bless aunties first up, because when I bless aunties, I bless the family. When I bless uncle, I only bless uncle because uncle just want to be blessed themselves. On one occasion, he said, uncle thinks that if I get blessed, my family gets blessed. But an auntie thinks if my family gets blessed, then I am blessed. So a mother spends all her time seeking blessings for her family, for her husband, for children. And uncle spends all his time seeking blessing for himself. If I'm okay, I can take care of my family. And for auntie, it is if my family is okay, then I'll take care of myself. I'll be okay just because my children are okay, my husband is okay, and everybody else around me is okay. And that is why, and why woman? Because of this suffering. This suffering in every possible way. In a way, being a woman is essentially a process which includes nothing other than suffering. So, a purity of a mother, purity of a soul of a mother is unquestionably at a very different level. So, coming back to what we were discussing, you are here, you settle your account, and do not add to your karma by not adding desires to your life. And one way of not making sure that you work on your desires is not asking your guru for anything. Remember, we discussed this. It all adds up. Bits and pieces from here and there, what we've been discussing is adding to this. If you do not ask guru for anything, then you don't need to account for anything. But guru can give you, he can bless you anyway, but you didn't ask for it. So it doesn't add to your account. Remember that, and that Vyakhya uh, in one of the Shabad where a, a person did tap and prayers of divine for 100 years, and then the divine became happy and the sound appeared, say, please ask whatever you want. So he says, give me the result or the full of the 100 years of prayers that I have conducted for you. And the divine said, you can think again. You want uh, a reward for what you have done, or you want from me the blessings free of any strings? And he said, no, 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 I want reward for what I have done. 100 years of my prayer and my tap. So he says, fine. But as he was about to give it to him, the stone on which this man was sitting for 100 years came back to life and told the divine, Lord, this guy has been sitting on me for these 100 years. So I also will take a cut from the blessings he is receiving as a result. So first tell him to hold me on top of his head for 100 years, and after that whatever is left give it to him. So if you want rewards for what you have done as a good deed, remember there are so many people involved in that process, and if you started paying for everything, very little will be left with you. So best is not to get into that. And a guru doesn't have to reward for what you are asking, for being his disciple and doing good. All you have to say is just stop asking. And when you stop asking, then whatever he gives you is not accounted for. It is like the tip that you give to the people who provide you service, and that does not get included in the bill. You pay that tip because you are happy with this service. And Guru is happy, he will simply give you blessing. Therefore, all you have to do is be with Guru and let the divine in you connect with the Guru, who is the supreme divine, and let it be. And if this much is understood in elementary words, then actually there is nothing more to understand. I remember many years ago, I'm in contact with my namesake, elder to me, whom I used to respect a lot. I still do, and called him uncle. He was my uncle and very divine soul. And he told me one day very lovingly, and he said, Raj, after spending all my life reading this, knowing that, sitting with this person and that person, and being with the saints and gurus endlessly, I understood it. And guess what I understood? I understood that all this was not required. A complete waste of time. There is nothing to understand. All you have is just the feel of giving up to the Supreme, surrendering to Him, and let Him take care of life. I did mention this yesterday, and I want to repeat it once again. It is important. Guruji said, if you hand over the reins of the horse to me, the horse will move straight. It will not deviate from its path, which basically means the horse really is our intellect, our mind, what we think. And if we let what we think and who we are and what we do, it's controlled to Guruji Maharaj, then we will think straight, and as a result, we will act straight, and we will not accumulate any negative karma, and we go back with the promise and with the result of a job well done. Present yourself to Guru and say, Lord, here I am, and ready to move from the darker side to the lighter side and the brighter side, and from a distance from Guru to close to Him. At the end of the day, all you want is to be at Guru's lotus feet. Karma will only decide whether you go to heaven or you go to hell. But if you surrender everything, then you are with Guru, which is neither heaven nor hell, and this has no time limit, because when your karmas finish, you're done with the heaven and hell. But with no karma, you are with Guru's lotus feet, which is in perpetuity, which is forever. Guru and his lotus feet are so important, because there you don't have to be anything to be something. Be with Guru always. He will never let go of us. Have trust and let him drive your horse. Hand over your controls to him and you will be fine. Just fine. Jai Guruji. Thank you so much.